Hey guys, welcome to Technibility. I'm Berge, and what we're going to do here is demonstrate how to repair a charging port on a Samsung Galaxy S2. Now you can see right off the bat, this Galaxy S2 is for T-Mobile, but it has a cracked screen. The screen doesn't work. You can see the LCD, but it's not responsive. We'll get into that in another video, but a lot of people, one of the main repairs that we have is a Galaxy S2 charging port. Now, you can look inside, you're not going to be able to see anything because I've already removed it. So I'm going to show you guys how to repair this without actually having to replace the part. Alright, so there's a few differences there. There's some Galaxy S2s or maybe even a Galaxy S3 where the part may need to be replaced, but for the most part, a lot of times, people don't know that you can actually fix it without actually having to replace the part. Now, it does require some soldering, it does require a little bit of patience. There's some repair companies, if there's any in your area, contact them, see if they do soldering. If not, again, you can ask me in the comment section below. I'll try to assist you guys. Technibility does have a repair business. We are running a repair business. You can see our accessories back there as well as the sign that says repair. So we've been doing repairs for a little bit now, and we're trying to focus on the repairs website, YouTube, and everything. But today we're just going to go ahead and take a look at the charging port on the Galaxy S2. Hopefully assist you guys in repairing this without actually having to replace the part. Alright, so now you can see the phone. I've already taken off all the screws, which obviously is the first thing you're going to do in order to remove the actual back to get to the motherboard, to get to the charging port. Now here I have my little bag with a bunch of items in it, and I'm going to pull out the charging port here for the Galaxy S2 because I've already removed this, and I just want to show you guys what it looks like if you remove it. You can see it's just a very small charging port, okay? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around. Now I don't have a tripod for this, so I'm going to try to do this with one hand with the camera in my hand, so bear with me here, guys. I've already taken out the screws, that part is done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop this off. Now if you've taken out the screws, what you could do is you could take like a little pick, if you have a guitar pick, say something similar to this right here, okay, and you can just pop off the sides in order to get this removed. Alright, now once you do that, you're going to see the motherboard. And obviously right below the motherboard, you're going to see the charging port right here. Okay, now let me remove the motherboard to show you guys how this exactly looks and how this works. Now before you remove the motherboard, of course, you want to remove the screen, any you see plugs that are connected to the motherboard. You want to remove those if there's any that are applying pressure, because you don't want to apply pressure to it. If you do, you might end up damaging either the cable or the motherboard itself. Alright, so we remove those two right there. You could remove that if you'd like. At this point, we should be able to just remove the motherboard. Actually, no, we forgot this one right here. So you can see there's a third one right there, and that's the screen, okay, which again is damaged on this specific device. Alright, now there you can see the motherboard. Again, once you've unscrewed everything, once you've removed all the screws, put those aside, make sure that you have all the screws intact, and you can see the actual motherboard right here. Now again, you can see right off the bat that I have already removed this charging port, so this has already been taken off because I actually went ahead and replaced it. Alright, so let's see, you can see right there, charging port, how it goes on there. So you can see these points right here, right? See those points? They connect to the motherboard. Now what happens a lot of times is that people will shove the charger or the charging wire, the micro USB cable, they'll kind of like force it in, right? And then you think it's not charging, so you force it in a little more thinking that's going to make a difference. Now, the reason why a lot of times when you force it in, it actually does start charging is because these points right here connect with the motherboard. Now, why do you need to shove it in order for those points to connect to the motherboard? Because it's likely that one of those points has broken off. So if any of those points has broken off the motherboard or has just kind of like slipped up and slipped off, well, at that point, it's not going to charge unless those points touch. So what happens is a lot of times people think, oh, you have to replace the entire part. When in reality, all you really have to do is just resolder that point onto the motherboard. And I've done this repair quite a few times on Galaxy S2 specifically because it is pretty flimsy. I mean, I will say that. It's a flimsy part. So what you want to do is, turn on the soldering iron, obviously. Okay? And then at that point, what you could do is just take the solder iron and resolder the point onto the motherboard. So if you see that, let's say, like this point right here has been broken off or chipped off, you could resolder it on. And the moment you resolder it on, at that point, you want to test it, obviously. So you could just connect it back to the phone without actually having to screw everything back on. Give it a whirl, test it out, make sure it works, put the cable in. Don't force it in, put it in after you've done soldering it, and then see how that works out. Now, of course, before you do all that, after you do the solder, what you want to do is you want to take flux, and you want to apply a little bit of flux, okay, to the actual point that you soldered. Now, the reason you want to do that, you can see liquid solder flux. Now, the reason you want to do that is because you don't want any of these points to touch with one another. You don't want them to connect. And what the flux will do is it'll, any points that are connecting, it'll remove. So any bridging or anything like that will no longer be present. So you can use a little bit of flux and then put the actual iron on top of the points, and it'll actually remove, let me just go ahead and put this there. It'll actually remove any bridging that you have between these points. So of course the main thing is making sure that it's connected to the actual motherboard. Okay, and the moment that you see that it is, if you need to go under a microscope, you can see the microscope right there. If you need to go under a microscope to see it in detail, you could do that. Or if you could see it with your eye, hey, that'll work as well. But again, you need these points to touch with the motherboard. Okay, and let me just show you guys right under it. You can see this one's broken. Okay, so this one was already broken. If I could just zoom in, or if I could focus in here. Alright, so you see those points need to touch with those. And this is a really, this charging port right here is broken. So it's not really great representation, but again, a lot of times what will happen is because people force their charging port in, you're going to get a situation to where one of them breaks off. Okay, you see that? So solder it back onto the motherboard. Alright, clean it with some alcohol. Take a toothbrush, dip it in a little bit of alcohol once you're done. Just any toothbrush, clean it off well, let it dry for a few seconds. And then at that point, maybe about 45 seconds, let it dry. Then at that point, connect it back to the phone and actually test it out. All right, and if it's working, if it's a little bit better, then hey, great. If it's just still kind of flimsy or not charging unless you have to force it in, then go back, look at the point under a microscope, make sure that it's connected to the motherboard, again, these pins. If it's not, then go ahead and just resolder it on. So this is the easiest way to replace or to repair the charging port on a Galaxy S2. And in my opinion, it's the best way without having to replace the actual part. So you can either do this yourself, or you can go to a repair shop and have them do it. If they're confused, just explain this video to them. Let them know Technibility told you that it's repairable. You think that a pin might be broken off the motherboard, that it charges sometimes if you have it in certain positions. And that's another thing. You might be lifting the charger up, and what will happen is it'll work, because while you're lifting the charger up while it's in the charging port, what happens is the pins right there are touching the motherboard. So that's why you see when you have it in certain positions, it actually charges. So you can get around all that by going about this fix right here. If you guys have any questions, again, don't hesitate to ask. You do need a soldering gun, some flux. Of course, you need some patience and detail, of course, because you don't want to damage any other part around the motherboard. And you should be able to do this on your own. If not, again, some repair shops should be able to do it. Again, also don't forget about well, you necessarily don't need the wick because you're not removing any solder. You're simply just trying to connect the points, or connect these, you see, connect that right there back to the motherboard. So technically you don't need to remove any solder here unless you're replacing the part, which is a completely different story in itself. Alright, so that's pretty much that. Again, I'm Berge. You're watching Technibility. Don't forget to check us out on www.technibility.com. If you have any questions about this, please ask me in the comment section below. I will assist you guys. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Keep watching. Keep looking out for more videos, more no-nonsense tech here at Technibility. All right, thank you guys. Have a good day.